But again, that's something you could just take a white brush and just go whoop, just break the
Yeah.
pattern, and then outline. So this is great. I mean, when you say this is only 90, what are you gonna still do? You're just gonna
So,
Hey, welcome to another edition of The Making of Turbo Pit Fighter. This is a sci-fi comic that we're drawing and inking simultaneously on split screen as we talk about all kinds of interesting comic book related culture, fun facts, and experiences. And one thing we love to do is chat about printed comics, but we're also, I think, going to be mentioning some TV shows and movies in the greater world, the greater cultural comic world. So, how you doing, Kurt?
fantastic. Really good. I got pretty far here. I'm at like a 90% here on inking this Turbo Pit Fighter pinup that you originally drew. And I figured
Mm-hmm.
today you could give me a rundown on how you see this and anything. I have a couple things I'd like to talk about in the way of trying to get some more black and white contrast into this thing. But I printed it at 7 by 10, which would be generally the comic book printing. So we can
Mm-hmm.
you can see the whole thing right here and now. And what I do is I use a red pen to make notes on here. And then of course, when I go back to the drawing, I can corrections
Yeah.
are one thing, but just making things move from one side to the other, which in a black and white comic book is going to be black or white. So, um,
Yeah. So, well, the big question is it going to be black and white? Because if this is going to be a front cover or a back cover or
hey,
something,
very good point.
then then it's going to be color. But just talking about the black and white thing here. Um, yeah, I wonder if it's a little. First of all, I love it. So
Thank you.
let's start off. It's really striking. It's popping out. It's got a lot of layers that seem like they pop out. Um, I can't really see the whole thing all at once on my screen.
No, okay.
I think I can. I'm just seeing like the middle, and I can't see the top to bottom. So there's that. But yeah, the it looks like, you got the darker left upper right and then the lighter bottom right, as far as just like distributing, color balance. Um I think that's good though. I don't it kind of has kind of a frenetic movement to it where the eye goes first and next and as it darts around. So, I'm also not seeing it in very clear focus,
Okay,
unfortunately.
for your, let me try.
No, it's just the app. We're getting a low res preview,
If I
and
sent
it's
you a JPEG by email,
oh
you
yeah,
want me to send you a JPEG by email?
that you can
Yeah,
do,
I
yeah.
can do that real fast. So,
So then there's that, and I love it. I think I if I'm this might be nitpicking, but there's the the right side outline of Trophy Girl's hand
hmm
looks a little bit thicker than everything
yeah, it's like a
else.
drop shadow I was playing around with.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's hard to see. So that's like a shadow
hmm
underneath. Right.
Her,
So that might
touching
be
her
the
flesh.
might be a little harsh, but
hmm
I just got this white brush I bought. I haven't tested it out yet. And I wonder if it's like really fine. Where is this stupid thing? I wonder if it's really fine, about going back in and laying white literally on black. I know that's a tall order sometimes, but you could always pull out highlights out of it, or um, just make it white rub on. I'm not saying this is necessary, but um, that's if you're getting super nitpicky. Otherwise, I don't really from this. I don't really have anything to say. I
I
did
just
mention.
sent you the email with the JPEG on there.
Okay. I did mention that I wanted to give Turbo a nose job. I didn't like my pencils on that, and the same thing goes for my version, which I have here too. But those things are very easy to do in post, so not a biggie, you know, and all kinds of tweaks. But I think faces and noses and eyes and mouths, are more important than anything else when you're considering going in and photoshopping your original art before you send it off to the printer, right?
Hmm.
Those are those are probably some areas. Let me see if I got this on mail yet. Yeah, here it is. Check it out. So I'm looking at a pretty small device, but I will be able to like home
Yep.
in here. And it says it's downloading. Oh wow. That's a world of difference. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now I can see like really the fine lines and stuff. So I love the veins on Trophy's face.
Oh, good, good. Yeah.
Um yeah, some of the effect on the leg warmers. Those are supposed to be like sheepskin or lambskin
Hmm.
or something.
Hmm.
So I like it on the right because it looks like, kind of like animal fur. On the left, kind of looks like the way they draw Wolverine's hairy arms.
You're talking about here?
So
This is this
on the yeah, no, on her,
this
yeah,
here?
right there where you're, yeah, right there. Yeah, so I would just go white out some of those
Oh, okay.
tiny little, and so it looks like, fluffy on the top and then textured on the bottom. It's great, man. It's great. I mean, like I said about the faces, like sometimes you really want to zero in on faces. Maybe some of those hatching lines on the faces look like they're kind of, out there alone.
On hers
But
or
this is
or
all
turbos?
on turbos, yeah. But this is all minor stuff. This is just a
How about
great
her
pinup, man.
eye? Now, in I'm
Yeah,
I'm dealing with your original, and like you said, it's it's an
so
it's an oldie, but her eye, I actually even whited out just on the side of it, but she has a very big wide eye, like she's kind of staring at something. So there's a bit of an emotional effect there than just
yeah, it
like
looks.
an angry, uh, about to fight or have just fought. Like, ooh, is that the unbeknownst one or something? But
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
it
the
probably
eye
could
might
get
be.
shaved down a little bit more.
Yeah, it looks a little cartoony.
Hmm.
I gotta see. My pencils are lost because I think you're inking on my inks, right?
Yes, yeah, that you had done like a
Yeah,
rapidograph.
this is what I gave you,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Yeah, so you can see. Yeah, I got a little lost in translation. A little smaller, a little less Egyptian. I have kind of like a clear. I don't have it so dark in the iris or the
Hmm.
pupil, whatever you
Hmm.
call it. But yeah, and then another thing is, your the hair you have, it looks so perfectly combed. And maybe it's just like that on mine too, so that's my fault. But what I always try to do with her is try to have like a couple of pieces that are just a little bit in front and disheveled, maybe one or two pieces, and that just gives it some more movement,
Hmm.
so it doesn't look like Charles Burns where he's making it like so, like anally
Hmm.
perfect, and those like those needles sharp points on everything.
Right.
But again, that's something you could just take a white brush and just go whoop, just break the
Yep.
pattern, and then outline it. So this is great. I mean, when you say this is only 90, what are you gonna still do? You're just gonna.
So now you brought up um, uh, uh, a color version. So I'm going to make, these minor tweaks, and then I'll do a high res because this is 13 by 19, the original. Um,
Hmm.
and so I'll have a high res 300 DPI of then kind of bringing it home. But for me, if it is a black and white image to be printed in a black and white comic, one of the things that I've been playing, I was saying this in the last episode, I think, this is a 70% gray, cool gray color pencil, and then this is a black color pencil, which helps kind of just bring in um, these values, but also some texture. So without bringing in, the zipatone, cutting
Right.
out the shapes and then putting them in here and there. Two of the places this might end up going into. Now the thing is with the color pencil, I can erase it. It might leave a little gruffness later, but I like that. So that's just a part of my style. But you had been mentioning, and I'm even right now looking at the color version of the cover from when we were back in the day, and heading towards something to finish and thing, that it's not a black and white shirt. It's a red and
Nope.
gray shirt. So one of the things I was thinking was giving these black lines, or this black shape, a little more like gruffy dark texture, and then on the white area, bring in something that doesn't make it so white. So there's a contrast, a less of a high contrast on that, and to go from there. And it also breaks up the flesh being at the point it's at value wise, which is similar only to when these lines here get darker to then like her belly, and then even using this, you can kind of see it here.
Yeah.
It doesn't lose, you
Yeah. I mean,
don't really lose, it brings down some of those sharp feathering lines, but I'm also creating a nice texture on there. So these are just things that I would play around with, um, just to find some more depth in places.
yeah. I mean, it's a great question. Whether to use pencil on black and white comic
Hmm.
pages. We know that Planet of the Apes. They had all kinds of gray tones and washes. I think they were using pencil. Um, and then they just went to print, and then it gets converted to a halftone dot.
Yeah.
Which leaves a lot to the printing process, which is a lot more controlled today than it was. Um, First of all, I would say never pencil on the original art, only a copy, right? Because you don't want to put pencil on the black and white, because if it is going to get colorized later, you want to go back to the just very high contrast black and white ink. If you are going to go to press with
Hold up,
something
hold up,
that
hold
you're
up, back up.
yeah,
So
yeah,
the statement you're making is not to put anything on here because you would end up coloring. You're saying, I mean, because I wouldn't color on the black and white original. I would make another high cast, you know, or, you know, an imprint of it, maybe at a reduced value, so I can then really work on top of it and then bring it in and then kind of collaborate the two in Photoshop.
yeah. If you're going to color it, you get the high contrast black and white line art, and you bring it into Photoshop. What I usually do is I scan it much higher res
Hmm.
than will actually be printed, like 400 DPI or maybe even 600 DPI, because then you have it preserved if you want to use a digital download one day, or an NFT, or you want to make a poster
Mm.
of the line art. You have a lot of flexibility, and you don't have to go back and rescan it. Then you make that a layer in Photoshop at 300 DPI, and you color over it. But what I used to do is I used to have separate black plate at high res laid right on top of the color plate at 300 DPI in Quark Express, where they
Oh,
perfectly
jeez.
set on top of each other, and that was the best of all worlds. Whereas if you just let the black go to 300, as soon as you look at it with a loop, you get pixelation, and you're leaving a lot to the interpolation of Photoshop. So yeah, I mean, sometimes there's a time crunch. It all depends what the process is going to be, but yeah, on original line art, I would just leave it high contrast black and white, and then if you're going to put gray tones in it, whether that be pencil or gray washes, with India ink that's diluted, or I just bought a set of gray brush pens that comes with 10 levels of cool and warm grays,
Mm-hmm.
and you could just go to town with those things. So, the world's your oyster. You could do a lot of different things, but you never want to, do something that you can't, back out of later if a need comes up. So, it doesn't seem like, too hard to just take the high contrast line art and duplicate it and then color it with gray pencils, right?
Yeah, no, I'll give that a shot. I'll definitely give that a shot. And
Yeah,
see
and then
and
and
see
then
what comes about that.
yeah, and then on gray tones, I think the only way to know how it's going to look is to go all the way through the
Yeah,
process, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
so you have to get like, some people send a test print, to the printer. They ask for one sheet, just a proof, or maybe you just go with it, and then you back out if it's really egregious, just deal killer bad. But you never know when you're using pencil because it has a variable pressure, and who's to say when the camera and the printers just stop picking up the pressure, and where that threshold
Well,
is.
just to
And,
like we have yet to get to the point where we have chosen the printing process, but I'm going to jump out on a limb because everything I've printed in the last 8 years was from a PDF file, and and it's being literally printed into a, a machine like a Xerox machine. I forget the name of the printer that's kind of popular for people to do print on demand and sell comics. Because one of these guys was out in Jersey and he did it in his garage. But they're pretty damn decent quality print based on the paper and the ink. But
mhm.
it definitely reflected from the PDF in the 300 DPI, 2 size from there. Now the verbiage you're using is from a your printing background where offset printing is really the language you're using, right?
Yeah, and today I think maybe when people get print jobs, they just go to these digital quick print
Mm-hmm.
places. And there's nothing wrong with it. You just have to make sure that you can hold the final product in your hand and you approve of it, so that you don't have any questions, before you submit. I mean, here I can show you. Um, here's this is just a color printed copy of the
When
cover
did you get that done?
a long time ago.
Really?
Well, yeah, as soon as I finished the artwork. The
That's
original
not the kind of that's
doesn't
not what I have.
the original doesn't have
Poster.
this lettering. This lettering is just a font that was laid
Uh-huh.
in Quark,
Uh-huh.
and this Doom magazine imprint is just laid in Quark. So
Yeah.
this was just something quick that I could put in my portfolio.
Right,
But
right.
this is what it looks like when there's like 400 or maybe 600 DPI line art laid on top of the Photoshop file.
Mm-hmm.
And the limitation here is probably of the Kinko's printer or the Staples printer, but it's pretty good, like, to the naked eye. And the question is, like, okay, are we going to do like archival quality prints here and try to sell those, suitable for framing, blah blah blah? No, I don't think we're trying to do all that. We're trying to do a cover of a comic.
Yeah,
So this is a perfectly fine process, to use. And you know but it is possible that one day you want that, like, let's say this was going to be a billboard, that you want as high res as possible. So instead of scanning these things twice and then going back later and saying, oh, where's my original, you just scan it once and then just make and then put it on a DVD, throw it in your closet, and then make another copy to use for the comic. Make a you could do the line art thing where you lay the line art on top or not. Again, the way to check that is to do it both ways, A and B, and see if it makes any difference. If it doesn't make a difference, you're just slowing down the
right.
process. Right. So yeah, man.
All right. Well, thank you, and
Yeah. So I mean,
we'll have a good show until next week on a finished ink page of Turbo Pit Fighter.
yeah.
All right, because I'm going to go back
I
to
can't wait.
inking page 20, I believe. Yep, I'm on 20, which we have a
Yeah, and I have
28
some.
page comic book here to finish.
I know, which is unheard of in the industry for anybody listening. These comics are so unique because they have no ads and they have lots and lots of pages in them. It's like a giant size. You asked me for the original. I found the original
Oh
concept
wow, yeah, I
sketch.
have seen that. Oh
Yeah.
man, that's got to
So
go.
this,
That's got to go in the first comic. That's a
yeah, and that this was in the first comic.
yeah,
Well, I don't know. Yes, this was this was just the first thing that kind of poured out of my head. When I was working at the print shop, I used to have this glossy
yeah.
paper,
You make
and
reference to this a lot.
the glossy paper with this roller pen is just magic. It just sits on the paper, right? And it just does something great. So I was just doing a lot of different concepts at that time. Um, so I wanted to catch up, and I had a note to show you that. The other show and tell here is that I was a good boy and I put some time in. So this is um, page 10, where we ended off, where
Oh
Turbo's
yeah.
throwing the guy out of the van. Well, I finished page 11
What?
here. And so now we have a very complicated scene here of the motorcycles exploding as the other four are still in pursuit, plus the one guy up on the top of the van. You can, if you look closely, you can see Turbo sticking out of the van right there.
Yeah, very
Trophy
nice.
says this road is rough. Deploying flame retardant, boss. So here you can see all the flame retardants being deployed. 4 left, boss. 3 seconds to breach. Here's the, and then here I put this little skinny panel in. And Turbo says, "We need to stop. You're going to slam the brakes." And here Turbo is sticking her head out, saying, "What?" On my signal, if we don't, they're going to blow our tires. 1 second, and then just in that moment, an arrow just scoots by, and Turbo narrowly ducks out of the way. Look out! Holy shit! Get ready, get set, and now stop. So here, she slams on the brakes. The van bucks up. The guy goes flying. Turbo jumps out the back and clotheslines two guys on motorcycles at the same time. And that was the end of page 11. Um, Now I'm working on page 12, where she's landing here on the ground. There's going to be two more guys that are circling around here. These other two guys are flying in the air. And I guess you have like a crumpled body here, but he's out of view for the guy that went flying.
Nice.
And she is going to proceed on this page to kick their asses. And this is going to be the last part of the fight sequence, which has been, I think, 8 pages so far.
Nice.
This chase and fight sequence. And then they're finally going to get some downtime, and then we're going to go into flashback. So that's what I've been up to because I had Thanksgiving break. I had like, I don't know, 2-3 hours, maybe 4 hours to finish that. And in between doing lots of other ADD things in between. But I had that done. I also had I don't know if I ever showed you, but this was a final inked poster that I did.
Nice.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but this got banned on DeviantArt, or not
What?
banned, but it got put as mature content on DeviantArt. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's exciting. That's why.
Doesn't have anything like that. Yeah, and I did get the color prints here after colorizing it all on
Oh,
Photoshop.
that's sweet.
Yeah. Funny thing was, when I went to the venue the night of the show to put this up, the guy made me take it
Why?
down, and he goes, "Yeah, I know." I'm like, "What
The
in the
fuck
world
is
is wrong?
going
Is
on?
it the nun?" And he was like, "No, we can't say punk night." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? These are all punk bands." And he goes, "We can't say that though, because the owner doesn't want to discount anybody that might be walking in off the street. So we're not allowed to say punk night. You
I
just
don't. I
say
don't understand.
the names of the band. I
I don't
know, and
get
you
it.
just say the names of the. I know because you have people that might like club music or goth
Oh,
or
oh, oh,
whatever,
okay, okay, okay. So they're not
and
trying to
they
just say we only do punk.
yeah, well, they don't want people on the street passing by and saying, "Oh, punk, that's not my thing. I'm not gonna go give it a
Okay,
try." They want people to
okay,
walk in and go upstairs and give it a try, no matter
okay.
which stripe they're from. So,
Hmm.
so that happened, and I didn't even get to put it up in the venue, but I hung them up around town, the local guitar shop, the local record shop, and so,
It's
and
tough
then of
being
course
an
you go.
artist.
Yeah, I know. Well, now I'm gonna coordinate with that promoter next time. But the funny thing was, I go into the local smoke shop. They have these new, vaping
Vaping
stores, and
centers,
they
yeah.
sell like bongs and hookahs and everything.
Hmm.
And the guy goes, "Oh wow, that's fantastic, man." He goes, I'll hang that up. Can you sign it?"
See, that's where you guys should have
Like,
played.
"Oh, boo." Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what I've been doing most of the last, you know, maybe 20 years is just poster art, and I have a nice collection of those. But
Put a book together.
getting back into comics, looking forward to retirement and doing comics, back in the swing. So, you wanted to bring up some sci-fi that you saw.
Yes, yes.
What do you got?
1899 on Netflix. Wife and I took a chance. I was actually very
Uh huh.
surprised, though. If my wife hears this, it's only because anytime I've ever suggested, well, I can't say anytime, but she's not a big sci-fi fantasy kind of person. She's more into reality.
Okay.
But she took a chance, and so did I, because I find a lot of the material on Netflix to be too dark. In other words, it just keeps driving um, itself as dark and depressing, where I can do that for myself all on my own. Um, so, because I do like, some humor or whatever in there. But I have to say, um, I had a lot of flashbacks from the movie Time Bandits, which
Uh
I
huh.
saw in the movie theater, which is a Terry Gilliam film. Um,
Yeah.
all of his films are great, but being, I don't know, maybe like 13 or 14, maybe even younger, and totally not knowing what I was getting into as a film, totally blew me away. Now the thing is it's all about time. That's the sci-fi element, and reality,
Mm-hmm.
consciousness, and then the simulation. The term now getting thrown around a lot. Simulation. Are we in a simulation? Now, I don't want to spoil anything, though. And by the time this video comes out, it's going to be about 2 months since it's aired on um, um, Netflix. But the consistency in the storytelling was perfect for nowadays, and it was also very great pacing. I really don't have any critique of it, and also not. There's no super braininess about it. So it's
Uh
all
huh.
on the street level, dealing with terminology and stuff, for time and consciousness and uh, um, um, reality and all this kind of psychedelics thing that people want to bring into their work, being trippy and stuff. But really, really good. Now, I called it right out of the gate, the premise, and then also how the ending would be, and I was pretty close. Um, but the way they shift it, because there's going to be a season two, was very crafty. It was very crafty, and it wasn't heavy handed. So I
Yeah.
just say, if you want something that is uh, really decent uh, sci-fi, without it being heavy-handed or clubbing you over the head or a lot of special effects. Um, but and especially if you're in my, your and I's age bracket, and you remember Time Bandits, go ahead and get on this, because other than the little people. It is spot on dealing with the same. It's like they were. It was almost like the whole show was like a wet dream to the movie. You know, it was great. It was great. So
You mean the movie Time
Time
Bandit?
Bandits. Yep.
Right. Well, I saw the first episode and a half,
Hmm.
and my wife and I bailed.
Oh, really? Really?
um, and the reason why is because now first of all, you do get some flashes in the setup. I guess I'm not spoiling anything about the setup, but the setup is you get some flashes and some imagery of the woman being in a sanitarium
Hmm.
and and then she wakes up in this 1899 cruise ship or
Hmm.
steamship. So now you're not sure which is the reality and which is first or second, what's going on. To me, that harkened back to Sucker Punch,
Sucker Punch. I didn't watch that.
right? Where Oh God, you got to see
Really?
Sucker Punch. Well, yeah, just for the action and the visuals. The visuals in Sucker Punch are fantastic. The story is a little, less fantastic, but they did have this setup, and it's also a setup that they kind of flirted with Harley Quinn and the Joker in their movie, I think Suicide Squad, right? Where they're in a sanitarium and they're a patient and what's real and what's not real. So so there was that, but then it kind of it went into just like a very strict period piece where they're in 1899 and they're going through all of these action sequences with the abandoned ships and the fighting and the coal guys, and then you have some hallucinations and some dream sequences and everything. And it's not my kind of sci-fi because my kind of sci-fi is wastelands and spaceships, and time travel is not my thing.
Okay.
Like when as soon as I see time travel, I
Mm.
sigh, and that includes the Avengers. That includes all this stuff because as a story vehicle, it's like, all right, that's one thing where just if you can do that, why didn't you just go back and kill Hitler? If you can do that, why don't you just I mean, and the,
You always bring
can
back. Why didn't you go back and kill it?
right? How can you even be here if a butterfly flaps his wings? Then everything is different in the next universe. So how can so time travel is one thing that I don't f with, let's say, and it's of course you can't avoid it, when I'm going out to the movies and when we're seeing stuff, but yeah, but for me it was just it was just a period piece, and you had that Titanic vibe, and you had that with the upper deck and the lower deck. It had all interesting personalities. Casting was good, acting was good. I like the captain particularly, and the leading woman. Also, if you saw Outlander, you also have a woman who's traversing time periods, who's a doctor, and you're saying, "Oh wow, she can bring modern medicine techniques, to the olden days, and she can be a genius," right? So you had a little of that, just reminiscent of that too. But and then after we bailed because I wanted to watch something else, and my wife goes to sleep at like 9:30. Um, I went online and I saw all the spoilers for 1899.
You
So
cheat.
not that I wasn't curious, right? It's not that I wasn't curious, right? It's
That's great.
but yeah, but I just didn't hang in there. I just didn't hang in there. I mean, for me, my sci-fi has a lot more action and a lot more gadgets and a lot more advanced science stuff. And I think when you're going back in time, there is a huge genre right now where they're calling steampunk. And I think
That's
that
an old thing. Steampunk.
yeah, but it harkens back to I remember Sleepy Hollow by Timothy Burton, and it's just like, oh yeah, it's like futuristic stuff, but in the past, right?
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, people love that. There's definitely comics being made like that. And I could get into that, but then there's got to be some scientific hook, where they're discovering something, or something's new or different. I mean, I don't know. I didn't feel 1899, but I did check out some comic related movies and TV shows. So, are you ready?
I am.
First, a teacher at my school downloaded a pirated version of Black Adam, and we showed it on the last day of school before Thanksgiving break because they gave us like 2 hours to fill in our homerooms as everybody's eating this big feast and everything. So I stuck on the Black Adam, and not going to spoil it for anybody that hasn't seen it, but I thought the whole thing is just a rip off of Marvel. They have the Atom, they had Doctor Fate, and they had Hawkman, and those could all be cool, movies, but they brought them together just like the Avengers, where Doctor Fate was exactly like Doctor Strange, the Atom is exactly like Ant-Man slash Giant Man, and they had this other character named Cyclone, who's like a whirling dervish and flying around like the Flash, or Quicksilver, or whatever. And so I didn't see anything cool. And like, now, granted, I'm not sitting down watching this thing. I'm in a noisy classroom with a bunch of kids, but I didn't. And The Rock is just and his acting, like he's posing like a wrestling guy. It's not like not you're not looking at Laurence Olivier over here. So I'm down on Black Adam, but if you're hopeful and you want to see it, there's some cool fight sequences. The Hawkman is kind of cool. Doctor Fate is a great idea that I think predates Doctor Strange and probably should have had his own movie, but they blew it. And so now it just comes off like, oh, he's got the powers of Doctor Strange, right? Um,
Which is
and
also is
yeah,
attributed to uh, um, Gardner Fox,
yes.
as well as
Oh,
as
really?
well as Hawkman. Hawkman is
Hmm.
actually was originally being towed as kind of like a sword and sorcery coming into modern times.
Right.
Yeah, those are two big heavy hitting. Now, when you say, because he worked with uh, um, Julia Schwartz, so they were constantly working together in flow to bring.
Julius Schwartz being the
Yeah,
head DC publisher in the
yep, a DC. Yep,
50s, 60s.
yep, yep.
Yeah.
So, and that was
And
a very,
70s.
very, very fascinating era, I think, not only in comics, but for DC, because just like you're referring to towards the movies, they're coming to the game late when they were kind of there early with the Doctor
Yeah,
Strange and Sword and
they blew
Sorcery,
it.
a winged guy who, has like this Egyptian sword that brings him. I mean, it's just great, fantastic stuff. But they ultimately sort of move away from that and dive completely into a superhero troping, where
Yep.
Marvel takes to heart, especially with Doctor Strange. I never really got the Doctor
Marvel
Fate thing, but
Marvel brought it to market big, and so now a whole generation doesn't understand anything that happened in the 40s and 50s and doesn't care. And all they know is like, wow, what posers, like. So yeah, I mean, not to spend too much time on Black Adam. I also yesterday went out and saw Wakanda
mm,
Forever with the
mm.
wife. And I'm very analytical, so I was neither here nor there, like, oh, this is great or this sucks or anything. I'm just like drinking it all in. My wife, who is a very casual Marvel person, she goes with me to these movies, and I think she at some point, most average people have had enough Marvel movies, but she loved it. She thought it was great. She thought it hit all the notes. It was 3 hours long. Had a lot of story, a lot of action, star studded, um, and it advances the Black Panther storyline. From where it was to where it's going, and is, just another installment in the franchise that is keeping it going very healthily, I would say. And I don't want to spoil anything for people that haven't seen it. But yeah, Black Panther 1 was a much more successful surprise than Marvel even thought it would be, even after they had all these successes. And one reason why is because I think African Americans all over the country really took to it. And, my school, it's, heavily, Black and Hispanic. And when the first one came out, they emptied out the whole school and they treated every kid in the school to a screening of the first Black Panther, because it was just like so empowering, and and it was so groundbreaking to have a Black hero on the big screen, major Hollywood blockbuster. So what they did, and you might have seen some TV commercials around this, is they really started to play up this angle of that Black children and can dream big about science and invent things. And so they have these commercials now about like tie in with Target, and the this one character who's a very very young Black scientist in the movie. And I think they're trying to really embrace the fact that schools, inner city schools, really took to the first one. And so it's I think it's just going to be more of that. And there there's younger actors, there's younger characters. So that's my take on Wakanda Forever, without any spoilers. It's just like, oh,
Would you
here we
say
go
go
again.
see
It's just
it?
gonna. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. You don't want to be left out, even if it's just to discuss it,
Right,
or
right.
um, that, I mean, that's why I go see all the Marvel movies that I can, is just because I don't want to be left out of any discussions.
Yeah, because you're
Yeah, I
a
mean,
Marvel boy.
I'm a Marvel stan, but I like some movies better than others. I loved the first Doctor Strange movie. I thought that was one of the best. Obviously, the Iron Man movies were just, the first two of them, maybe even were there three? Yeah, they were just a cut above everything else. I go back and see the X-Men stuff. I saw the Dark Phoenix, saw all of it. There's even the New Mutants that came out, which was kind of like a horror movie, and they all seem like they have a little niche within the superhero universe that they're all going for. One interesting thing about the Wakanda Forever movie is that they are introducing the Submariner, which they don't call him the Submariner, they only call him Namor. And they go into his whole extensive origin story. They kind of twist on what it was originally, and I turned to my wife and I said, that is one of Marvel's very first ever characters. The Human Torch was first, and Submariner and Captain America were second or third, depending on who hit the street first. And they gave a pretty good treatment, pretty good actor, pretty good special effects. So people can look forward to go seeing the Submariner in that movie big time. Um, and so he'll be continuing on in the Marvel universe too now. So that is my report, and I have one more. Since I'm on a roll here, is one thing I bookmarked is I didn't even know that there was a second Justice League movie that came out in 2021 straight to streaming. I saw the first one where Batman and Wonder Woman and Superman and Aquaman and the Flash all got together to fight evildoers. I think we all saw that. But a sequel was out in 2021. I just totally missed it. I never even heard of it. And it cost $60 million to make, and it only made 16 million on the initial release and streaming. So I think it might have been a total loss. Some people said it sucked. I didn't see it, but now I have to see it to reference everything that's going on. And just to make sure I don't miss any Wonder Woman stuff, because I loved the first Wonder Woman, hated the second Wonder Woman. I thought she was pretty good in the Batman versus Superman movie. They only teased her, and then I thought she was pretty good in the JLA movie. But I'm a fan of the potential of Wonder Woman, because I have some
Stock in her.
slideshows that I yeah no I have some slideshows that I do for female
Oh,
superheroes for
that's
my
cool.
kids. And yeah, and speaking of Hawkman, people should also know that Hawk Girl was Hawkman's female counterpart, and that also predated Wonder Woman. So people should know that, 1940. Um, so my last report is going to be, I put in superhero comics. I think I just put comics in Netflix just to see what comes up and see if there's anything to see. And what comes up, but the Japanese animated X-Men. I didn't note the year, so I have no idea what year it is. But this is Cyclops, Phoenix, Wolverine, and Storm, and Doctor X and Professor X, and going through episodes and episodes. And I picked up on season 2. It was the only season available, and Netflix has a note saying these episodes are only going to be available till December 15th. So these are like, there's a limited window. And I gotta say, fantastic, kind of anime style art on the X-Men. Fantastic Wolverine, fantastic everything. Oh, and the Beast. If I didn't mention the Beast, they make him a little bit snouty for me, like a little snout. Is like a kind of animalistic snout, and that was a little different. But really good art. And sometimes the animation is the typical shortcut anime stuff, but there's also no shortage of fully animated sequences, no rotoscoping, but just a really good example of what superhero comics could be. It's all in Japanese with Americans with the English subtitles. So this was clearly made for the Japanese market. And it also, they're also like always in Japan. They're like, they're in the mansion in New York in Westchester, and then they're like, "Up, we have a signal. We gotta go. Where? Japan." so
Well, they should just
so
they
and,
should
and
rent a
yeah,
place.
so yeah. So people might want to check it out. The very first episode is kind of like a cliffhanger from the previous season, which I think was season 1, which ended in the Marvel girl ascending to become Phoenix and becoming destroyed. And so that's how it starts out. And then Cyclops is kind of upset and brooding and hurt all throughout. And and then antics ensue. So yeah, I never saw that, and I got sucked in. I ended up watching 2, maybe 3 um episodes before I nodded off at 1 in the morning. So that's another thing to be on the lookout for, because who knew that in all of these iterations of the X-Men and X-Force and all these, and New Mutants and the Young Mutants and this and that, that they would just do the classic, you know, uh Cockrum, sorry, the classic John Byrne, Claremont team, and some of those stories, and turn them into big budget animation online. So gotta love it.
Well, with that being said, right over the 45-minute mark, so perfect timing. Um,
We did it.
so
We did it.
very, very well
Um,
done. Episode once again
yeah,
covered a lot, and we seem to
we
be
did.
moving quite along. I am on page 20. You are on page 11 of issue 2. I'm on issue
Well,
1 inking. Man,
I'm starting 12 now.
you're on, oh, 12. Excuse me. Yes, yes. So, um, this is where we're heading. Is 6 issues of Turbo Pit Fighter done every Sunday for an hour. I got up early
It,
and made cut out some time, about hour or so before getting on to work on um, the pin up. So we are heading in the right direction, and also keeping ourselves informed on what's going on out there in the world of comicdom. So that's all
Yes.
I have. Do you have anything
Yeah,
to
and
finish?
so yeah, we did promise a big catch up on the story of Turbo Pit Fighter number 2 last issue, and we reneged because I saw all these um comic movies. So I we are going to pick up on that next time. We are going to talk about the long-term outlook for Turbo and Trophy and the Unbeknownst one and the world building.
Hmm.
Um because I had a big burst of energy and I took a whole bunch of notes and I kind of tied a lot of concepts together, between the scientific angles and the story angles. So let's just bookmark that
Cool.
again for next time. And I also found a couple of their turbo pinups that I've done over the years, which
Oh,
I'll show and tell
nice,
you.
nice.
So next time, tune in for a big catch up on some future spoilers, including secrets and climactic stuff, and some artwork.
As always, can't wait till next Sunday. But we also have a follow-up episode of Commandy, issue number 16, that we've been deep diving into. So let's jump out of here, and I'll see you over there, Jake.
All right, Kurt. Thanks.